Good afternoon. We are following a local breaking news alert regarding the Ray Tenzing trial. Ray Tenzing is on the stand right now. This is a live picture of the courthouse, and Local 12's Perry Shively has been on the scene all afternoon, all morning, and she joins us live with the latest on what she has been hearing in the Ray Tenzing case with the man who is on trial speaking. I think we're going to listen in for just a second before we take Perry. Perry, there.
All right, Paula, I wasn't sure if we were going to listen to Tenzing himself. He is on the stand right now, and he is currently talking about the traffic stop at the point where he stopped Sam DuBose. Now, this is a very, very important, a very big day of testimony. This is a day that a lot of people have been waiting for. It's the time we are hearing from Ray Tenzing himself, not on video, not a recording. It is him, his words on the stand. Now, Tenzing took the stand just before 11 o'clock this morning. Defense attorney Stu Matthews asked him some background questions and then immediately addressed the t-shirt Tenzing wore under his uniform the day of the shooting. Now, UC required its police officers to wear a black shirt with no visible markings at the collar. Tenzing's shirts followed those guidelines, but what a person could not see is that t-shirt said the words Great Smoky Mountains, Tennessee, and had a Confederate flag on it. Tenzing told jurors that he had that t-shirt for about 4 or 5 years, that it was a gift from a relative. Matthews asked if the Confederate flag had any meaning to Tenzing, to which he replied, "It has no meaning to me, no."
Did you have any purpose in putting that particular shirt on that day?
I had a certain number of black shirts in my rotation to wear for my summer uniform for UC, and you kind of want to wear older t-shirts because when it's hot out in your vest, you start sweating a lot and your t-shirt gets soaked with sweat. It was just in my laundry basket. I just grabbed it, threw it on. I never looked twice at it, never thought anything about it. It was just a black t-shirt with no markings on the V-neck.
Matthews also showed jurors video of some of the stops that Tenzing made prior to the stop with Sam DuBose. Now, before that, he called another witness, James Scanlon, who served as a use of force expert. However, he said that he thought the shooting was reasonable and that it was justified. The prosecution spent a lot of time trying to disprove that and trying to make sure that the jurors understood that this was a use of force expert and not an expert in video analysis. Paula, back to you.
And Perry, let me ask you, it looked like another thing they were doing is trying to show how the morning or the day started, that he made another traffic stop without incident. Is that what you were gathering, that they were trying to show that it was a normal day?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're doing, that he had more than one traffic stop that day. There were a handful before he came to the stop with Sam DuBose, and that all of those was normal, that there was nothing in question, that he was very calm, and that's what the defense wants to prove. But of course, we haven't yet heard from the prosecution.
All right, thank you, Perry. And we want to go back live to the courtroom right now and listen into what is actually being said right now in the Tenzing trial. Let's listen in for a minute.
He slammed the car in drive, and he just... Sorry, can I have a minute? Thank you. So he slammed the car in drive and he mashed the accelerator with his foot. And the guard is jolted forward, and while this was happening, my left arm was still inside the car. And I thought I had reached through or near the top of the steering wheel, I'm not sure. But as the vehicle started rocketing forward, I felt my arm somehow stuck in the car.
Did you begin to fall?
Yes, sir. My arm was stuck and I could not pull it out. And I felt his car going forwards, and that's when my body twisted. That's when my body twisted to the left, and I was now facing more of the trunk of his car. And I started falling backwards. And I was telling him this, I told him twice to stop.
Why did you tell him stop?
And then he stopped the car.
You perceived that the car was in motion?
Yes, sir.
You were falling?
I was falling backwards, and the left side of my body had kind of fallen against his driver's side door. I was falling backwards as he's just got his foot mashed in the accelerator, and I could feel his car turning left into me. So I'm falling backwards, and I'm falling lower and lower. I'm falling lower and lower against his driver's door. I remember thinking, oh my God, that he's gonna run me over and he's gonna kill me. That he's actively dragging me with his car right now, and my arm is stuck in there, and I cannot get it out. And he's turning left into me with his car. He's got his foot mashed in the accelerator, and his back tire is gonna run me over.
Is that when you drew your weapon?
Yes, sir.
Fired?
That's when I drew my gun with my right hand. And again, I was falling backwards against his car. He was going forwards. I was facing his trunk, and I was completely off balance at this point. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, he's gonna run me over and he's gonna kill me. And I just instinctively just drew my gun, and I was so low, all I could see was really just his upper body, his head area, and that's when I reached up and fired towards him, towards his head.
You heard Grant Fredericks testify the other day that you were standing up when you fired.
No, sir, my perception at that point is I was falling backwards against this vehicle, completely off balance, as he was just rocketing away in his car.
I believe Mr. Fredericks testified the other day that you never came into contact with the car. Do you remember that?
I do.
That's your perception?
That was not my perception. My perception was that my body got rotated to my right and I fell backwards, and the left side of my body fell against his driver's door.
And what made you feel that you were going to be seriously injured or killed?
I felt my body moving with his car. He was picking up speed. I remember hearing the RPMs climbing and his engine revving, and the way he initially pulled over, there was a car parked in front of him, and I knew he had to turn left to pull out, and I could feel his car turning left into my body, and he was still accelerating, and I was just thinking, oh my God, my legs are gonna get sucked underneath his car, and he's gonna run me over, and he's gonna run over top of me with his car, and I'm gonna die on the street today. And also in the back of my mind, I remember when I initially pulled over, I did a scene size up. I look around on the scene for anything, just my settings. And I remember on the other side of the street, there was a guardrail with metal I-beam posts sticking up. And they were facing the street. So as I felt my body being dragged and his car turning left into me, in the back of my mind it just said guardrail, that he's steering you towards that, and he's gonna scrape you off the side of his car. on that guardrail, and
This all happened in a split second, correct?
it happened very fast, yes.
How were you able to have all those thoughts? Can you explain that?
They flashed just very quickly. I feel my body getting dragged, guardrail, gonna run me over, and it just happened.
Ray, did you have any less lethal weapons with you than your gun that day?
We only carry mace and a baton. We're not allowed to carry tasers at all.
You were not equipped with a taser, correct?
I didn't have a taser, no.
At some point, you disengaged from Mr. DuBose's car, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know when that was or where you ended up?
My perception during this is immediately after I fired the shot, that at that point my arm was still caught, and right after the shot that my arm became somehow free from whatever was trapped, or whatever way it was trapped in or around the steering wheel. Again, I'm not sure how it was. I just know I could not get it out and free it. So right after the shot was fired, my arm became free, but his vehicle was still accelerating hard. He was just rocketing forward, again, turning into me still. And I was still completely off balance, falling on my back, and I just remember just trying to grab for anything with my left hand to keep my body upright. Just I grabbed towards the seatbelt or his chest just to keep from falling backwards and getting sucked under his car, just trying to hold on for dear life.
Okay, so you came free from the car, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you know where you were with relation to where you had started out?
I had some idea that I was farther up the street. It felt like I was attached to his car for a mile, but I would guess 15 to 20 feet. I was farther up the street.
What did you do then?
After I fell off his car, I slid on my back and I kind of rolled to my right, and I remember kind of as I'm standing up, I'm facing the opposite way because I fell on my back, and I see Officer Kidd and Officer Lindenschmidt sprinting down Rice Street towards me.
What did you do?
It just instinctively, I popped up real quick. I got off the ground and I turned around, and right at that point we heard a loud crash farther up the street, where the direction where Mr. DuBose's car had gone. So we heard a loud crash, and all three of us turned around and started running up the street towards where we heard the crash.
Were you injured?
At that point, I wasn't sure. My adrenaline was running so fast, and everything was still unfolding. I wasn't sure at that point.
And I assume you and Officer Kidd and Officer Lindenschmidt ran to the corner of Rice and Valencia, correct?
Yes, sir.
What did you find when you got there?
We found that Mr. DuBose's car had crashed into a wall and what appeared to be a telephone pole right at the intersection of Rice and Valencia. He had crashed on the driver's side against the wall.
Were you able to determine at that point what Mr. DuBose's condition was?
I was not sure, no.
What was the car doing?
The car was crashed against the wall, and the engine was redlining. It was just revving and screaming against the wall, but still sitting stationary.
And what did you do?
I told Officer Kidd to cover me, and I went around the front of Mr. DuBose's car, and I reached in and I shut the key off to stop the car from blowing up or whatever. I just wanted to shut it off since it was just sitting there screaming.
Then what?
After the car was shut off, I had realized when I looked in that Mr. DuBose he had been shot. And I came back around to the passenger side of his car, and myself, Officer Kidd, and Officer Lindenschmidt just were standing there, and I believe Officer Kidd got on the radio to put out an officer needs assistance. I was just more or less in shock at that point.
Were you injured in any manner?
As the adrenaline started coming back down, I could feel in my left arm, from my elbow down, it hurt. It was tingly. It felt like a tendon had been pulled in my arm. It was tingling. And my left knee started to hurt, and my lower back from where I fell on my gun belt was starting to hurt.
And then eventually you were transported by Sergeant Nate Asbury to the University Hospital, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were examined there?
Yes, sir.
Found to not have any broken bones or serious injuries, correct?
Yes, sir. They gave me x-rays, and there weren't any broken bones.
Did they provide you with any medication?
Since I was complaining of pain in my arm, my knee and my back, they gave me some kind of pain medication.
And then what happened?
That's when one of the Cincinnati officers came in and took my duty gear and my uniform.
And eventually you were taken back to the University of Cincinnati Police Department?
Yes, sir.
2 days later, on July 21st, you responded to 824 Broadway Street over here, met with Sergeant Hine and Detective McGuffey, correct?
Correct.
And you were with an attorney at that time?
Yes, sir.
That was not me.
Correct, that was not you.
Did you and your attorney that you met them with discuss your statement that you were going to give before you went in there?
No, sir.
Okay. Had you had an opportunity to look at the video, the body-worn camera video?
My lawyer had obtained the body cam video, and we looked at it a couple hours prior to giving my statement.
Did you discuss what you were going to say in your statement?
No, sir.
When you met with Sergeant Hine and Detective McGuffey, did you answer all their questions that were put to you?
Yes, sir.
Tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
At the scene at Rice and Valencia afterwards, you can be heard saying, "I was dragged, my arm is hurt," something to that effect, and the jury will be able to see it on the video. Did you make that stuff up?
No, sir. I didn't even remember making those comments until after I saw the body cam video again.
When this happened on July 19th, 2015, were you mad at Sam DuBose or angry?
No, sir.
Was it your purpose to kill him?
No, sir.
Now, just a moment, Judge. Judge, I have nothing for you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a brief recess. Remember, the admonition: do not discuss the case among yourselves. Do not allow anyone to discuss it with you. Do not belong on discretion. Do not this case is finally submitted. All rise for the jury.
This has been Ray Tenzing testifying in his own defense at the trial of shooting of Sam DuBose. He said that after that traffic stop with DuBose, he felt that Bose was dragging him. He said he was actually dragging me and trying to kill me. He says that's when he drew his weapon and he was off balance and falling backwards. After the shooting of DuBose, 2 other officers were on the scene. He says he got up off the ground, was greeted by the other officers, and that's when they heard a crash. It was the crash of Sam DuBose's car. Stay with Local 12 for continuing coverage of the Tenzing trial. And remember, you can watch all the testimony streaming live on local12.com. We're going to go to a break right now. We'll come back with more on the elections and also the